Welcome. I'm Christy Lesher. I'm one of the teachers here at CC Yoga. I've been with CC and Christiani's amazing program since it started several years ago. Took a little break, but back to teaching since the fall. I teach on Thursday nights at 5:30, and we go for an hour and 15 minutes. And it's called Yoga Building Blocks. And if that is confusing or you're not sure what it is, it's basically a foundational class for folks who are either new to yoga or returning to yoga, or are continuing, right? There's not been an interruption or they're not new, but would like a place where they can slow their practice down. We begin class every week with an opportunity to breathe. So we take the first 5 or 10 minutes and set up on our mats, mostly reclining, sometimes sitting, and do some focused breath work to create some space from the day's activities. And then we carry into a thoughtful sequence of yoga poses where we do good prep work through finding length and strength in the body, both of which we need for our asana practice. And then we kind of carry that thread forward into the rest of practice into some standing poses. And then we end with ample time for Shavasana, heavily prepped. We have bolsters, blocks, blankets, everything that you need. Mats are here also. So there's a link on the website to get to my class and register, or you can show up and we'll take care of everything your first time in class. I'm going to go through just a very rudimentary practice, one that I kind of come to almost on a daily basis. It's really great for home practice. It's not complicated. It just requires a couple props if you've got them at home or something that's a good facsimile. And I think it's a good flavor of what you'll get if you come to class with me on Thursday nights. So we're going to start on the floor. We're going to get right into some stretches for the back of the legs. Hamstrings are a place where a lot of tightness and shortness accumulates through our other activities, such as sitting, walking, biking, gardening. Maybe we're finally doing that now in the Rochester area. Running, any of those other activities that use our hamstrings and kind of continually shorten that story. We can use Supta Padangusthasana and a belt to help us find some length on the back line, and then we'll deliver that into a couple other poses. I do have a yoga belt with a nice loop in it. Any strap or length of rope or anything you've got at home that could replicate this is great. I have a blanket and I have a couple blocks. And that is really all you need. So we're going to go ahead and get into practice and clear that blanket away. And so we're going to start by taking the loop, and we'll go to our right foot. So I like to get that strap placed at the ball of the foot, not in the arch and not higher, but right here where we've got this place to press out through. And we're going to come down onto our backs. And you have two choices through the left leg. One is to keep the left knee bent, which you would do if your low back has some issues that you just want to be careful about. If your low back is totally healthy and fine, you can extend that left leg fully, activate that left leg, so quads are active, my glutes are active on this left side, and that foot down there at the end of my mat is an active standing foot, as if I was standing on the wall down there. And then I'm pressing up through the ball of my right foot, pressing up towards the ceiling. And you can have a soft bend to this knee. If the hamstring is really tight, you would take a little bend to this knee to avoid any pulling where the tendons attach, the muscles attach to the joints. If you're all clear, if you can get it, you can lengthen that leg. And a few breath cycles here gives time for those hamstrings to open on the backside and lengthen and undo some of the day's activities. So breathe a few cycles here. And then when you're ready, really have this left side engaged, so really strong left gluteal engagement. And then we'll let this right leg float off or melt off to its own side. So right leg goes to right side, and we get length on the inner line of this right leg. No expectation for this leg to go to the floor. We go only as far as well, in my case, as far as the ultra will allow. Go as far as the inner line feels like you're getting a good stretch, but it's not painful. And take several breath cycles. Continue to breathe and press out through the right ball of that foot, or the ball of that right foot. Then inhale, this leg is going to come up. We're going to switch hands, so take the strap in the left hand, and then the leg crosses the midline, and we roll up on our left hip. And I press into my head and kind of scooch my left shoulder. It gets a little bunched up there, so I like to scooch my left shoulder out of the way, and then this leg can come all the way over to full expression. You can stop anywhere along the way, anywhere where your IT band says this is a good stretch and this is good for me and my body, you can stop. If you can let that right leg parallel the floor. And the toes down there at the bottom of or at the end of the mat have come down to the mat, so they kind of sweep like a windshield wiper blade. And we breathe through here. Now we're getting outside line of this right leg, IT band and glutes, getting a good stretch. Breathe through a nice big breath here as the torso is in rotation in a twist. Gives this really nice sensation, right, that the vital organs get a nice good squeeze as you inhale and the diaphragm presses down. And when you exhale and the diaphragm lifts, then everything gets a good release. You can, to come out of the paravrit, I bend this knee so it's not so much of a lift, and then roll back onto my back. Release the strap, and then I love this nice long journey down as I'm pressing away through that foot all the way as it comes to the mat, and then pause, and you get this great internal body observation where it feels like your right leg is longer than your left leg because it hasn't had a chance to catch up. So pause for a moment and just appreciate that, see how that feels. If you need to resettle your pelvis on the mat, go ahead and take that. And then when you're ready, go ahead, set up on the left, so strap goes to the left, the ball of the foot on the left side. All the same things are true. If it's better for the low back to keep the right knee bent, you do that, you take that modification. Otherwise, we press the right foot away from the waistband. That right foot is like a standing foot. And we inhale and think about all this length that goes up through the left leg. If it's extended fully, great. If it's not, also great. Right, you do what the hamstrings will allow, and over time you may find that if you've got a soft bend to your knee, as you work on this pose and cultivate length in the hamstrings, you might come to a place where full extension is an option. So breathe through, keep pressing up through that strap. And then we'll take both variations on this side as well. So first we're gonna go ahead and let the left leg melt off to the left side. We go so far as the inner line of the left leg will allow. I have this great line of stretch happening through the inner line of my left leg. My glutes are still active on that left side, right? I'm not just letting this leg flop to the floor. I want to protect this hip joint, and I do that by A, getting a really nice stretch on the inside, but also B, finding the left side glutes to ensure that that hip socket stays safe and protected and not overextended or overstretched. We can inhale this leg up and over, and then switch hands. The strap goes in to the right hand. I'm going to take this little hop so I have space as I twist, and the left leg crosses the midline and comes over to the right. Same thing here, right? If you're getting a really great stretch partway through and you don't want to go all the way over, then this is your pose, right? You're getting left glutes and left IT band release. Otherwise, you've got the option, if it's available, to let this leg parallel the floor. I always teach, right? We're not going to let the foot dip all the way down to the floor. It asks too much of the SI joint back here. So we want to keep this joint steady and stable. And to do that, we don't overstretch, right? We just parallel the floor with that left leg. Press the foot. And then again, to come out, bend that knee, back up we come. I'm going to release that strap, and then again, I'm really pressing through that foot and finding that nice line of extension as I let that leg slowly come down to the floor and meet the right, and I go, everything's even. Go ahead, bend both knees. Come on over. We're going to face the mat and take spinal waves, but that first sequence, if all you have every day is 10 minutes, lay on the floor, find your strap, and find length along the back line. Often when we end up with low back pain or kind of chronic back problems, it is because something further down the chain is too tight and it's pulling us out of alignment. So I strongly encourage you, if you can carve out 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, if you do Supta Padangusthasana, in English it's hand to big toe, because if you weren't using a strap, you would take the hands to your big toe for the stretch. Most of us who are not superhuman need the strap, so use it. So you could do that, all three variations, straight on, out to one side, and then crossed. And then the other yoga pose or practice that I would strongly encourage every day is spinal waves. And so we're just going to take the first variation. I'll teach the other on another video. But for first variation spinal waves, we take our hands nice and spread to the mat. The wrists are slightly ahead of the shoulders, and you'll see why in a second. So there's that slight angle. Hips are over the knees, and then we go with the breath. So we start with an exhale, and we let the tailbone lead in both directions. So an exhale finds the tailbone tipping toward the floor, the lumbar spine pressing out and away, and eventually the head dropping toward the mat. And we get this nice big arch or cat, right, pressed up toward the ceiling as we exhale. And then as we inhale, the tailbone lifts, the lumbar spine drops, we sink into our thoracic spine, which is this spot between our shoulder blades, and the head moves forward in space. There's no need to crank the neck, the chin up, up and away. I really favor this extension forward instead of this big lift up toward the ceiling. It's just a little kinder and gentler to the cervical spine and the back of the neck. And so again, exhale, tailbone tips. Lumbar spine presses out and away. We exhale as the whole spine presses up toward the ceiling and the head drops. And right shoulders behind the wrist, because we get this opportunity to kind of really press away. And inhale finds the tailbone lifting first. Lumbar spine drop. Thoracic spine finds extension. And we extend a little bit of this movement or this wave through the spine forward in space. So there's this gentle, not only a wave through the spine, but through the body back and forth. And so several cycles of spinal wave. What is several? I don't, maybe 6 or 7, maybe 8 is a good number, right? Just to swing the breath through the body nice and slow. You're doing nostril breath, so both inhale and exhale is coming in and out through the nose, which is a really great pacifying way to breathe in yoga. We always are taking breath in and out through the nose. And spinal waves are a great opportunity for us to move the different locations of our spine off of their normal pattern. So as we stand or sit, our low back is in extension, right? It's coming into the body. And as we work and have our hands on our keyboards and we drive and we do everything under the sun ahead of our bodies with our hands, our thoracic spine between our shoulders is in flexion. So spinal waves gives us an opportunity to invite the lumbar spine to press out and away, and the thoracic spine to come in and flex. And so it's a great opportunity to take the spine through a full range of motion, both flexion and extension. But really specifically when I move through spinal waves, I'm really thinking as I exhale and flex the spine, I'm really thinking about pressing my lumbar spine away. And as I inhale and extend the spine forward, I really want to think about drawing those shoulder blades in on the back body and inviting the thoracic spine into the body, which are, both of those are off pattern from how we normally find ourselves in relationship to gravity. So if you can only do two things, well, you should always do three things. The first thing is to breathe. So to find time to weave intentional breath work through all of your yoga work and through your daily routines. And if you can carve out 15 minutes a day to take a few minutes to move the legs through that hamstring stretch, and then inner line as we let the leg go off to its own side, and then outer line of the leg gets to stretch as we bring it across the body, and then spinal wave to really intentionally move through space, through our spines, and link our breath to our body. That's a great practice. I'm gonna push us forward. I'm gonna take those couple bits of length that we just found. We found length on the back line of the leg, and we found a really nice fluidity through the spine. We're going to deliver those into a couple additional poses. We're going to take, it looks like child pose, but it's an extended, more active take of child's pose. I use it as my measuring stick. A common question that I get is, how much space should I be taking up on my mat? You know, like how far away should my hands and my feet be in downward dog? And that answer to that question really depends on your body. How long is your wingspan? How long are your legs? And so one good kind of starting place for a measuring stick for that is if we went from 20, so say you have a little bit more than 15 minutes, then you could carry on from where we just were in spinal waves. You could press yourself back into what looks like a child's pose, but leave the arms fully extended. And this is a good measuring stick or a good starting point for how far away your hands and your feet should be in downward dog. So I take this, my hands are, my fingers are spread, my hands are active and ready to support me as I inhale and turn my toes under and leave my hands just where they are and peel myself up and back into Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. And I find this to be a good distance. And if you get there and you think, nope, too far or too close, then you just make a modification. But downward dog is this opportunity for that length we just found on the backs of the legs to be delivered into a pose. Right, so that length through the hamstrings, now we say thank you. And we check in through the spine, we check and say, you know, are my sitting bones reaching toward the ceiling? Is my spine spilling out of my pelvis and cascading toward the floor? Go ahead, walk the hands and the feet together towards the middle of your mat. We will take a forward fold. So if you came back up like me, You can go from here. If you stay down, you can just stay in Uttanasana, forward fold. I'm going to inhale my arms up overhead, and then I'm going to exhale and hinge forward at the hips. If the fingertips don't dust the mat or reach the mat, you can bring in a block. Right? We want to, the aim is that the fingertips have something to press into. So if they don't reach the floor, then we bring in a prop. And we breathe. And again, we say, oh, we got some length through the backs of the legs, which is delivered into this pose. So we have this nice ability, because we found some length in the hamstrings. We have this good ability to fold ourselves forward. There's a little more space to do so. And if the head, if you were here, right, because this is what the hamstrings allow, then great, right? The back, the location of the back or the directionality of the spine is a bit irrelevant. The aim is that the legs are extended. They might have a soft bend to just allow for space and grace in the hamstrings. If you can extend, fantastic. If you can extend but the spine needs to be somewhere like more parallel to the floor, then you can just raise your prop until you're at a comfortable place through the backs of those legs. And then my favorite trick for coming out of forward fold when the legs are together, like in Uttanasana, is to bend the knees. And right there, my back goes from maybe a little bit of flexion because I'm in this forward fold kind of toward the end of my, my mobility or my flexibility. So as I bend the knees, the back goes into full extension. I take the fingertips back behind me, and then all I have to do is press into my legs and stand myself up into Tadasana. So I'm going to take that facing the camera as well, so you can see what that looks like. And the reason I teach this way is rolling back up, you know, taking the rolling back up is fine. Also, the big hinge back up is also fine. However, if you have, you know, and I came to my own yoga practice with some existing kind of low back issues, and so I have found, and many of my students have found, that this way of coming out of a forward fold, instead of hoisting the whole torso up and away from the floor in one big move, or rolling it up, which can be a little bit tricky, if we take the opportunity to break the line, right, that back line, and take the tension off of the hamstrings, and then it's really a story of when we send those fingertips back and away and we press into the feet, it's really just a quadriceps story. Strengthen the quadriceps brings us back up, and everything comes up in alignment, and you're set in Tadasana as you come up out of your forward fold. So just a little trick if that's ever something that you've kind of had to be delicate about in your practice. All right, and then just a standing sequence for tonight. I'm going to teach one of my favorite sequences, which is we're going to build up into Warrior Two, Virabhadrasana 2, but instead of stepping wide and coming down into the pose, we're going to come up from the floor. It resolves a couple common things that you see with the pose, little kind of tricky little spots of the pose to look out for. So I'm going to use my 2 blocks. I'm going to step both feet between my blocks, and we're going to start in a lunge. So I'm going to step my left foot very far back on the mat and find myself in this high lunge with my blocks. I'm using the high setting. You'll see in a moment why. I'm stacking the deck in our favor as we build up toward Warrior 2. So here we are in high lunge. There is a tendency sometimes to kind of go a little bit because we've stepped this foot back maybe for this hip to try to open as much as you can. You want this left hip to face the floor. And then we're going to start to build up from here. And right in lunge, you're just this long line from that back heel up through the back of the leg and out through the top of the head in lunge. So from here, we're going to place that back foot on the floor. I'm going to drag this block in a little bit so it lines up with my leg, and we're going to find ourselves in extended side angle. Couple breaths here. Again, that long line continues. Now it's the back pinky edge of the foot up through the side of this leg, through the side of the torso, and out through the fingertips. And now we're going to gather our strength. We're really going to think about stretching the mat between our feet, and we're going to take off and find ourselves in Virabhadrasana 2. Coming up from the floor often helps us find this place through both sides of the torso where they're even with each other. Sometimes when we come down into Warrior 2, this side goes forward because we've come down. When we come up from below, we stand ourselves up into this really great position through the torso. Left and right sides are even. Breathe through. And then we're going to take this small reverse. So we drop the back arm and we lift the front arm. And breathe, 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 right? We inhale and go off from this hip, up through this armpit and out through the fingertips. There's this nice line. And then we reset. Both sides are parallel to, or even with each other. And then back down into extended side angle. And then sweep this hand back forward. Even out your blocks if they got uneven. And a little break in lunge. And then step that back foot in. And this feels like a little vacation. A little break in Uttanasana. And then to come out, you know what to do. You bend the knees, you send the fingertips away, the spine is in extension. You press into those legs and up into Tadasana. You could just stay there and do the other side, but so that my back isn't to the camera, I'm gonna switch. So now I'm gonna leave my left foot between the blocks, step my right foot back, come down into high lunge. I'm thinking about the heel, the back line of that leg, and then this line that continues out the spine and out the top of my head. Right, this nice long line, I breathe. Then I'm gonna take a little hop and drop that back foot and find myself. I always kind of have to tinker a little bit with the spacing, and then I find extended side angle. Breathe through. One thing I didn't mention on the other side, in extended side angle, this knee and this inside of your elbow, they have a strong relationship to each other. So I'm pressing this knee into that inside of that elbow. And then I'm gonna gather my strength. I'm gonna really think about stretching the mat between my feet. And I come up into Virabhadrasana 2. And breathe. And I check in, right? If I had come from the top and bent the front knee and gone forward, I might have ended up here. But I built the pose from the bottom or from the floor, and I automatically land in this place where left and right sides of the torso are even with each other, parallel to each other. And we'll take that small reverse, back arm drops, front arm lifts, inhale, this nice long line from the crux of your front hip all the way up. Back we come to warrior two. We're going to come back into extended side angle. Nice long line, pinky edge of that foot through the top side of this leg, top side of the torso, out through the fingers. Swing that arm back. Adjust your distance if you need to. A little pit stop in high lunge. And then we're going to hop that back foot in. And a little break in Uttanasana. Forward fold. I'm not doing, 100% or 110%. It's like this pose is a little bit of a respite. So I'm just letting gravity take my head and find myself in this little forward fold. I'm going to, instead of hoisting myself up, I'm going to just use this opportunity to stay low, and we're going to step wide into the wide leg forward fold. So I brought a block with me, and this is a really wide stance, your widest probably, and you're really pressing into the pinky edges of your feet. So it's those pinky edges that press and the arches lift. And then we get this opportunity, again, your relationship to the floor is all dependent on the story through your hamstrings and your pelvis. So you take that forward fold from there, only down as low as you're able to go. And the whole time you're here, you're thinking, pressing into the pinky edge. Arches are up, lifted up, and that energy comes all the way up the inner line of those legs, and the quads are hoisting the kneecaps up too. So there's this big upward energy through the legs, even while we fold forward. And then to come out, I like to press up, parallel the back to the floor, heel toe in a little bit so you're not so extended, and then hands to the hips. Inhale, up you come, and then step together. And pause in Tadasana. Great. So that is a little flavor of what class is like, yoga building blocks on Thursday nights. From there, we would kind of bring the energy down, do a couple poses to wind ourselves in the direction of the floor, and then eventually end up in Shavasana for the last 5 or 10 minutes of class. So I hope that is illustrative and instructive for you if you've ever wondered what this class is all about on Thursdays at a CC. And hope to see you at a future class. Have a great night.